The steepest descent rate. Well, when we practice depressurizations, you can go down maybe when you wind up the speed and you're just flying close to the red here. You can go down at like maybe with the speed brakes extended. You can go down at maybe 6,000 feet per minute, 7,000 feet per minute. 6,000 feet maybe. Not all the time though. Only basically when you start accelerating. Like let's say if we had like a depressurization now, once you get the oxygen mask and all the stuff, you'll start the descent, and you'll bring the altitude down, obviously, bring the thrust levers, extend the speed brakes, and then accelerate. And as you do that, the aircraft will really dive initially, and you will probably get 7,000 feet, 8,000 feet per minute. But once it's established on the descent and the speed is kind of fixed, then you will see maybe 6,000, 5,000, something like that. This is just for information, really. It's not really something we take into account once we are in the air, or once actually we are dispatched. Once we start from the stand, it's not really a limiting factor. So that's it. We're just flying along with one pack, which, as I said, is not a big problem in itself. So we were on top of climb. We got distracted by the little technical problem. But usually, what we will do is look at the engine out page. Shows flight level 279. So in this direction, we'll go down to flight level 270, which is a normal kind of flight level. And even odd flight level number, should I say? And the engine out speed will be at 242, so above here. So we've got about 30 knots to lose, which is really a lot actually. Because even if one engine fails, then the remaining engine would go full blast, and you wouldn't fall off the sky, far from it. So. That's it. The winds, we can update the winds. Actually, we've got the correct level there, 370. But you can update the winds if you want. You can delete 410 because we'll never go up to 410, and 290 is a little bit low. So we can put 37, 35, and maybe 31. All the odd flight level numbers going eastbound, and we can execute that, go to route data again, and then request the new winds. Let's see what happens. So the request is sent now. And here's the uplink ready, so we'll load the uplink. Then if we press here, we can see we've got all the winds for 370, 350, 330 and 310. It's all in there, so we can execute that. That like makes the winds active in the computer, and then the descent forecast is also ready, so we can load it. It should be the same ones, but if there's an update, maybe we'll change the winds ever so slightly. The computer is still recommending 370. The optimum is at 375, so that's good. That's it. Now we're gonna be a little bit over the water for some time. It's no ETOPS. It's no ETOPS because basically, if we take a plan view of the route, it's no ETOPS because these airports there along along the coastline here. Keep the route within 420 miles. I'm not really sure what these airports here are, but when I did the flight planning, Oscar Papa Kilo Charlie was kind of keeping the route within the 420 miles. So the weather here was good, so we can we are ETOPS. Without Oscar Papa Kilo Charlie here, the route is ETOPS for maybe 5 minutes, because from Muscat here until Mumbai there was like maybe a 5-minute segment in ETOPS. Amir Ramik, that's a very good question actually. The uplinks and basically all the ACARs is primarily done by radio, by VHF. VHF data link. So when you are within reach of a VHF station, it's all done by VHF because it's cheaper for the company. But once you are like you know, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of an ocean or something, and you are outside reach of VHF coverage, it's done by satellite indeed. Yeah, I think obviously nowadays airlines offer like internet connection sometimes, and it's something that will come at some point. At the moment, we don't really use it yet, because I think it's also a matter of cost, but I think it's coming. Once they get like better signals and it's becoming a more common thing, the price and the cost will decrease, and yeah, I think it's coming. For the weather, actually, when you do I think I showed that in a previous stream. If you go to the com here, normally in the company menu here, we've got a lot of things actually. Unfortunately, in the simulator here you can't really open it, but in the company menu there you've got a lot of options. One of them in particular is for like weather requests. So you would I think in the aircraft I fly is up here and there, so you've got a lot of boxes there, 3 columns, a lot of different things, and up here you look at weather request. So you press on the box, and then it would give you the option to enter. I think it's 3 airports. So you can enter the code of 3 airports. So we're going to Mumbai. You can put like Victor Alpha Bravo Bravo. You'll set in the box, and then down here bottom left you've got like a send button. So you will send the request, and off the request goes. And same thing works via data link, and either via VHF, as I said, or via satellite. And then after maybe a minute or 2 you'll get the reply, and you'll get the request for the weather displayed on the screen down here, with basically the METAR, you know, the weather report, the latest weather report, and then also the forecast, the TAF. What they have as well is, you know, you might be familiar with the term ATIS. You know, basically the weather report broadcast around an airport, and you can get the ATIS also. You don't necessarily need to get the ATIS by radio. You can get the ATIS by data link as well, and you can be thousands of miles away from an airport and still get it via data link. Because I think basically what happens is that you make a request to the network, and the network goes and pick up the information wherever it is, whatever airport it is, and and then sends it back to you. So you don't need to be close to the airport to get it. And yeah, basically for the ATIS, the digital ATIS as they call it, you know, the D-ATIS, you may have seen it on some of the airport charts. Sometimes you see instead of ATIS it says D-ATIS, so it shows you that you can request the ATIS by data link. And normally the digital ATIS is here in flight information, so you click on this, it would open only a few options, but you've got the D-ATIS option. Once again, open it and then enter the code of the airport you want to get the ATIS from. If you request the, for example, the destination ATIS, and if it's available, it would usually come up automatically. The option will come up automatically, and all you have to do would be to send the request, and then you will get the digital ATIS coming up. Yeah, the MH370 is that's a little bit of a mystery. I think there's something obviously they are not telling us really, because to totally lose an aircraft like this is unbelievable. There's so much. I was talking about data link. There's so much data link involved, telemetry and stuff. You're absolutely correct. The engine manufacturers and the companies have constant contact with the aircraft through data link, so therefore through VHF data link or via satellite data link, and yeah, they keep track of all the parameters of the engines of the aircraft. For example, here today in this flight, I've got like back left. The failures would be transmitted back to the company. The company would know that the aircraft had the back failure. Everything is sent in, I think, pretty much in real time. Actually, it's sent back to the company, and the company, well, the maintenance part of it, I guess. They keep track of all the parameters of the aircraft pretty much in real time. So, but I understand on the MH370 all the data link system, basically all the telemetry was cut off by whoever did, or well, it was cut off. So if you totally disable the system, then obviously there's no more contact with the outside world. So yeah, from what I've read and from what I understand, I mean, I might be wrong, but apparently the transponder was switched off, and then within maybe 1 or 2 seconds, somebody in the electronics bay also disabled the whole data link capability of the aircraft. So that makes me think that maybe there was more than one person involved. If that's the correct, obviously, sequence of events, because you cannot be in the flight deck and disable the transponder and then within a couple of seconds be in the E&E bay. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, you need 2 persons to do it. So yeah. Actually, I invite you to have a look at the KLM YouTube channel. I'll do a little bit of publicity, but my kids love watching the KLM YouTube channel. They've got these flight deck videos. There's about maybe 7 or 8 of them. There's a couple on the 737, one on the 777, where they actually talk about the NATS And the one about on the NATS actually is quite good because you can see the oceanic clearance request on with the CPDLC and all the data link system. So it's quite interesting to see that. That's exactly the way it works in the aircraft. So it's quite interesting. And yeah, they've got then a lot of other stuff, but these flight deck videos are quite interesting. Yeah, it's to come back to the MH370. It's quite hard to tell, you know, what happened. Down Grimes 205, sorry, I missed the question. Do you have any tips? Because flying is my dream. The tips, yeah, just you know, just follow your dream basically, and you know, do all you have to do to make it. You know. Have you actually started flying already, or are you still, like, you know, waiting to do your PPL and all that stuff? According to the flight plan and stuff, we're still within the Muscat area until Rusky, I think, and then we're entering that Mumbai oceanic area. So I think in that area as well, we were talking earlier on about like not crossing, and I think in this area of Mumbai oceanic, you've got it's not very long. It's only maybe I don't know, 200, 300 miles, whatever, where you're kind of outside all coverage. You also have CPDLC and ADS coverage, so you would log on onto Mumbai CPDLC, and the ADS is actually connected automatically once you connect with the CPDLC, and basically that's the way you would communicate. You wouldn't really communicate with Mumbai, or even when you cross the Atlantic actually with Shanwick or Gander, you wouldn't communicate via HF. HF would be a secondary means of communication. The primary means of communication is CPDLC ADS. So CPDLC actually works it's a little bit like sending text messages on your phone. Most of the time it's like a set format, and yeah, they would just send you little text messages which would appear either when you open the COM page, would appear here on the lower display here. Otherwise, if you don't open the display, there would be like a box, a white box here opening up, and you will get the message down here on the ICAS display here. FABT7, now morning. How are you doing? CPDLC like makes life really easy, because HF can be a pain in the backside, and even though HF you don't have to listen to it all the time, because you get the you know, you get the cell call. So basically it's a code that the HF operator like dials, and the aircraft systems recognizes, you know, the special code sent by the HF operator, and then gives us a message here. It will show up as a dot, and then it will say cell call, and it will go like ding dong, and then obviously you would go on the HF radio and speak to the guy. Oh yeah, turbulence can be nasty sometimes, huh? Yeah, you got to be careful, and sometimes it's also not really advertised, if I can say that. It just comes out of the blue, so yeah, you've got to be careful. I don't like turbulence, like little, like you know, light chops, and but if it gets too nasty, I don't really like it. So I'll try to, you know, maybe descend or climb. Climb is maybe not always a good idea. Well, depends how much margin you've got. When I talk about margin at the moment, for example, we are like, you know, 370, and the computer is saying that the max fly level we can accept is 384. After that, we are like outside the flight envelope, so outside the acceptable flight parameters, if you want. So if we were, I mean, in this case we couldn't really, if we had to climb to 380, it will be a little bit tight because you only have like 400 feet to the maximum, and then that would mean that you would get quite close to the red here, and that this amber line would come up as well, and the margin between the low speed and the high speed regime will be fairly narrow. You may have heard the term coffin corner. You would get yourself quite close to the coffin corner, so you don't really want to get up there when it's turbulent, because the speed like fluctuates quite dramatically sometimes, and you don't want to get into the low speed or the high speed regime as well. So obviously when you descend, sometimes the air, you know, the air and the turbulence is maybe different, you know, the winds are maybe different, the temperature, and if you descend you could go to 3.5, 3.30. Obviously the margin there like opens up, and so you've got more margin on the as I said, on the low speed and the high speed, and yeah, the wind layers might be different and might be smooth, so I would rather go down to a lower level, even if you burn a little bit more fuel, but at least be comfortable. And for the passengers, I think it's fairly important as well that people are not stretched at the back, you know, being shaken around. The worst turbulence, let's say between moderate and severe, touch wood, nothing where, you know, that made the news, nothing that, you know, where you see sometimes on the newspapers or something, reports that everything went loose in the cabin, and there's like plates and glasses and cups everywhere, and people have banged their heads on the ceiling and all that stuff. So nothing like that, touch wood. That wouldn't be so great, but yeah, got fairly shaken up though a few times, and it's not pleasant. Yeah, flying and get your ears blocked, you have to be careful. If you've got a cold, quite severe cold, obviously like a ear infection or like a upper tract respiratory infection, then maybe it's good not to go flying, because yeah, you could burst your eardrums, so you've got to be very careful with that. It's not a good idea. It's not a good idea at all. The vertical speed, aerodynamic, it doesn't really matter, because when the aircraft is pressurized, the pressurization automatically is automatically like scheduled at a certain rate, so it doesn't really matter if you descend at 3,000 feet per minute or 500 feet per minute, because the pressurization is automatically adjusted to maintain a certain rate of descent for the cabin. It would be if then you're depressurized, then yeah, it can be it can help to just fly maybe 500 feet per minute, because obviously when the aircraft is depressurized, then it's like flying in a Cessna, and you wouldn't You wouldn't descend on a Cessna at even like 1500 feet or 2000 feet per minute. You would hurt yourself a little bit. So yeah, but otherwise in normal conditions, like the rate of climb or descent doesn't really have any impact on your ears, or it's just because, let's say at the moment the let's find the air synoptic. Here is. At the moment the cabin altitude is at 6,000 feet, so obviously we'll see later on when we descend. I think it will be scheduled to maybe the rate. At the moment obviously the rate is 0, but when we'll descend the rate will be maybe 500 feet, 600 feet per minute or something, while we'll be descending at 2,000, 2,500 feet per minute. Yeah, obviously then as you descend, the cabin is coming back towards well, in Mumbai it's more or less sea level, so it will come back towards sea level, and it's basically during the descent as the pressure increases, then that's what causes, like, you know, the pain in the ears. You can see in the air synoptic here, the pack is obviously kaput, as we know. About the fuel, position reports. Rasky 17.4 on the fuel, and the flight plan was saying 16.6. Oh, so we're making a lot of fuel actually. That's good. So that's something that we would do maybe every maybe not check every waypoint, but at least do a fuel check every half an hour. Whenever there's a waypoint, we would compare the fuel on board with the expected fuel at this stage on the flight plan to make sure we're not basically leaking fuel. Fuel is basically, you know, the fuel on the aircraft is basically time. The more fuel you have, the more time you have, and during the cruise at this stage, I mean, we still have 17 tons, so it's not a problem. But when you're close to an airport and you have to decide, can we continue to land? The weather is not great. Shall we stay here? Shall we divert? Basically, fuel is time, and time is less stress to decide on the best course of action. So, yeah. No, the left pack, as I said earlier on, the left pack in itself is not a problem. What would be a problem is would be if the second pack would fail. That would be a problem, because basically we would slowly lose the pressurization. But no, one pack is okay. The second pack is kind of keeping everything under control, so it's fine.